Okay, hello everybody. Welcome on in here to our user group webinar today. I'm coming to you live on a sunny day here in Columbus, Ohio. My name is Jim. I'll be leading our webinar today. Let's see, do a little sound check here. Okay, so our webinar today is going to be covering advancing groups and classes as well as advancing school grades in the membership module. Before we get started on that, should be about a 20-minute presentation or so. It's not going to be a terribly tight amount of material to get to here today. Before we get started on that, a word about your GoToWebinar control panel. There is a small red or orange button, usually in the upper left-hand corner with a little white arrow on it that'll allow you to either minimize or maximize that control panel. Minimizing it gives you a little bit more room on your display there so you can see what we're talking about in our presentation here today. Maximizing that gives you access to the features therein. Most importantly, the questions box. So feel free to type any questions that you have regarding the topic, which is advancing groups and classes as well as school grades. And I will get to any of those questions. I may not get to them until the end of the presentation, but I will leave the room open to answer any questions that come in as we go. So after the presentation, I will leave the room open for a bit to get to all of your questions. If you guys, if anybody has our regional training workbooks that are available for purchase, the book we're using today is Membership 201, M201 book. We're going to be using pages 21 through 20, what is it, 25 is the material that we'll be using, that I'll be covering here today. Not a ton to it, but there is a few little tricks to using these functions. I want to make sure everybody understands the way all this stuff works. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to go ahead and launch the membership module. When you launch the membership module, it takes you to this window right here. This is our opening image map for membership. So if your classes are set up so that there are people in one class traditionally that like advance to another class at a particular given set of time, like in Sunday school grades is the most common example there. Church Windows you can set up the database so that that can all be performed kind of in a more simple manner with a single click of your mouse button. So we're going to talk about the steps for getting that set up. So the first thing you're going to want to do is to look at your groups and classes and make sure that the ones that you want to be able to advance are set up in a manner that you can. So that's done here under your Groups/Skills tab along the top of your membership screen, and then you're going to want to go to where it says Set Up Groups. This is the window that you go to create new groups and classes, and it is also where you're going to come to kind of check the properties of your various groups and classes as well. So if I expand my classes department here, it's going to show me all of the groups and classes I have set up under there. And if you select one of them, so I'm going to highlight my first and second grade Sunday school. Over here on the right side of that same window, there is a checkbox that says Show on Advance Screen. So any groups and classes that you're going to want to have use the features that we're going to be talking about as we go through here today, that check mark must be selected there. So I'm going to want to be able to advance all of my Sunday school classes today. So I'm going to check my 3rd and 4th grade. That is checked. 5th and 6th grade, good. 7th and 8th grade junior high fellowship, awesome. So my Sunday school classes that I'm going to want to advance are all going to be on that screen. If you make any changes on here, make sure that it's all set up properly here. You'll notice that there is no, when you make a change, it's going to bring us to this. I'm going to show you the way this looks on the Advanced Groups and Classes window in just a moment. Okay. Once you've selected those settings here, the place where you want to go when it is time to advance them is again under Groups and Skills, and you'll see Advance Groups as a button up here. So this window kind of gives you a map of, now let me say this as well. The very first time that you come to this window, you will have all of the groups and classes that you have selected to advance listed under this column where it says from groups/classes. That's where everybody is located currently. So when you first open this window, that is the groups and classes as they exist now, and all the kids and all the people in those groups, that's where they are. But when you first come to this window, the to groups/classes column, this one right here, is going to be blank until you tell the system how to set this up. Okay, so let me show you. If I were to click in one of these boxes, or let me show you one of these. If you click in one of these boxes that is blank, it kind of shows up with a little drop down arrow, and if you click on the drop down arrow, it's going to show you all of your other groups and classes that you have set to appear on this window. And to get one of these groups to be able to automatically advance to another one, you have to select one on this other window right here. Okay. I'm going to get rid of that. That doesn't make any sense. But you'll see that this has already been set up before I came in here. My first and second grade Sunday school is going to go to third and fourth. My kids in third and fourth Sunday school is going to go fifth and sixth. Then fifth and sixth is going to go to seventh and eighth. And you'll see seventh and eighth is going to go to that senior high youth fellowship. Okay, so there's a couple of different ways to do this, and that is kind of determined by how you have this remove history column here set up. So groups and classes can use a start date and an end date to kind of show when somebody was in that group or class. And that allows you to keep a history for when a particular member was in that group or class. So you might say, see, January through December of 2015, Bob Smith was in the trustees group. But since we're here in 2018 right now, since he ended it in December of 2015, he is no longer in that group. Right? So basically it allows you to see the history of when folks were in a particular group or class, which is great, but that can get a little, some people don't need that much information. Some organizations just need to see, are you in the group or class now? And doing it in that manner, you simply don't use a start date and an end date on their group or class. If they see the code on their record, they're in that group or class, and that's it. So if you have this remove history checkbox selected here, when you move folks from one group into another, it deletes the old code from their record and simply puts them in the new group or class. So this is when you're not using start dates and end dates to kind of remember have the system remember when somebody was in a former group or class. That's the way we're doing it in our presentation here today. When I advance kids from my first and second grade Sunday school to the third and fourth, it's going to delete the old code and just put them in the new code. Okay, I hope that makes sense. But again, if you wanted to keep the dates, you know, the old dates that they used to be in that group or class, you would uncheck these and you'd simply assign a new date range for when you move those folks forward. Okay. With that being said, again, we're just going to delete the old code when we do this in our presentation here today. All right. So let's take a moment to talk about doing all of these moves. I want you to notice the order that these groups and classes are in here. First and second is the first code on here, then third and fourth, then fifth and sixth, then seventh and eighth. So if you're going top to bottom, the kids in the youngest group, then the next oldest kids, and it goes ascending in that manner when you're looking at it on this screen. And that's important because the system does allow you to simply put check marks next to all of these and then use the advanced selected button down here at the bottom right here. When you click advanced selected, what it's going to do is it's going to go in order from top to bottom. So it's going to move all the first and second graders to the third and fourth. Then it's going to move all the third and fourth to the fifth and sixth. Then it's going to move fifth and sixth to seventh and eighth, etc. Now think about what that means. If there's a kid that's in the first and second grade class, you advance him to the third and fourth grade class. Then you take the kids from the third and fourth grade class. That includes the kids that used to be here just a moment ago and move them up. And then it takes all of those kids that are in fifth and sixth grade and moves them up to seventh and eighth. Basically, you're just going to shove everybody all the way up to the senior high youth fellowship if you do that from the lowest level up to the highest level. Now, a couple of ways you can get around that. You can simply click one group and then click advanced selected. But I'm going to show you a trick that I like to use that makes things a little easier. Notice here where it says from groups classes up at the top, you've got a little arrow button up here pointing up. If you click in that box and left click, you'll now see that little arrow button pointing down. And now you'll see the order is the opposite. Now if I select all of these, it'll move the seventh and eighth grade kids up to the senior high fellowship. Then it'll move the fifth and sixth graders up to the seventh and eighth. So it's going to do it in the proper order when I click on this box and order it in the other way. Okay, so it's kind of a weird concept to get your brain around, but you want to start at the oldest level and move your way younger when you do this. So when I've got everybody selected here, I'm going to click my advanced selected and you'll see it'll start with the seventh and eighth grade group first. So here we are with this. So advanced groups and classes, this window is going to show you the seventh and eighth grade kids are moving up to the senior high fellowship. Here are all of the kids that are in the seventh and eighth grade currently, and they're going to move into this group. Okay. Over in the upper right-hand corner, if you've got people assigned to roles for a particular group or class, we see we do not here. And that includes, leader, whatever. You can set up your own roles. One of the types of roles is teachers. Notice that box is unchecked. Normally, teachers for a particular Sunday school class stay behind. So by default, advancing teachers is unchecked. And also, if you have particular comments for kids, that'll move them forward as well. If you did have this set up so that you did want to keep their history, you could also set the start date through the end date for the group that they're moving into in this section down here at the bottom. That's not how we're doing it here. So I'm going to go ahead and click this checkbox. It's going to check all of those kids by default, But if there were some of these kids that were staying behind, you would simply uncheck their names. And when you click OK, it's only going to move the selected kids from the 7th and 8th grade up to the senior high fellowship. When you're all set to go with this, you simply click OK. It's going to perform that move. It gives you this window right here letting you know that they're going to move up. So I'm going to click OK here. It'll move those kids up. Now we're going from the 5th and 6th grade up to the 7th and 8th grade. So again, let's say it's most of these kids in this example. You select the ones that'll move up. You click OK. It'll tell you that their history will be removed. It'll move them up to the 7th and 8th grade. Okay. And again, from 3rd to 5th, gives you the same warning message. In this case, my database here doesn't have any kids in the 1st and 2nd grade for whatever reason. Our training data doesn't have that way. There's nobody to move, so I'm going to go ahead and cancel. So that moves everybody up. Now notice what happens here. It's going to tell you the date that the transfer took place, last time you did a transfer took place. And if you have usernames and passwords set up in Church Windows, it'll tell you the date that that happened. Okay. So that is advanced groups and classes. Once you click the save button, it will save those changes. All of those moves will be made. Cool. So that's advancing groups and classes. In addition to groups and classes, there's another field in membership called school grade. That is considered public school grades. Groups and classes are considered Sunday school grades. The field actually called school grade, which you can see right here. School grade, that's considered public school grade. So the next thing I'm going to show you is how to advance like the public school grades forward, okay? All right. Let me exit out of here. And if we go back to, pardon me, this time you're going to go to Special Functions, and the button you'll use here is Advance Grade. So this is going to show you a listing of all of your codes that you've got for school grade. And basically the way this works is it advances it in the order that you see this window. So all of your K kindergartners are going to advance to grade 1. All of your grade 1 is going to advance to grade 2, etc. on down your list here. Okay. This one is going to be smart enough to move everybody, without doing the thing we were worried about on the former screen where, it basically groups everybody up to here. Moves the K's to 1s, then takes all the 1s and moves them into 2. This is smart enough not to do that. It's just going to move everybody up. So, folks who are joining me here for the live recording of this webinar, in your copy of Church Windows, it is not going to have this column that says do not advance. This is a new feature that is going to be built into Service Release 1 for version 21. The current, you'll see it listed right up here in the upper right hand corner. 21.18.0 is the current version as of today for all the folks joining me here live. In the next week or two, we will be releasing Service Release 1 or the .1, which will include this feature I'm about to explain. Folks who are listening to the recorded webinars, you probably already have this feature built into Church Windows. And by the way, for the folks who are joining me on the recorded webinars, hello from the past. How is the future? Do you guys have flying cars yet? What's it like then? Anyway, sorry. So again, if you want to not advance a particular grade, you can uncheck that. It'll remove it from the list and put it up here at the top. This is going to be a very rare occurrence that you're going to use. Now notice if you do mess around with it, it'll get you out of order here. So notice my second grade is now here down here at the bottom. you can use these arrow buttons over here on the right to put this back in the order that you want everybody to advance in. Okay. All right. You can also, if you need to add a new code to the school grade field, you can use this little green plus button down here in the lower left-hand corner. But this one is super simple. All you do is you got to save your changes when you make a change like that to make sure the order is locked in. But once you've got your order all set here, you'll use the advanced grades button up here in the upper left-hand corner, and it moves everybody up one level. Simple. So I'll click advanced grades. This will move students from the first advancing grade to the grade below it. It will not affect all those marked do not advance. Okay. Clicking that, boom, all the kids are moved up one level. That's all there is to it. Notice after you do that, again, the recorded last time to do this, which is today's date, will be listed on here. So every time you come in here, you'll be able to see the last time this was performed and who was logged in when it was done. Okay. All right. That, folks, is all I have to discuss with you today. I'd like to thank you so much for joining me here today. If you're all set to Rumble, feel free to click on the X in the upper right-hand corner of your GoToWebinar control panel. If anybody else has any questions, I will leave this room open. Feel free to type in any questions that you have at this point. But thanks for joining me, everybody.